So Trump calls up Newsmax. Well, first he called up Fox. We'll play this for as much as we can stomach it. I don't know how long that's going to be. But
yes, now by phone, the 45th president of the United States, former President Donald Trump. Mr. President, thank you for joining us.
Cheat, a draft dodger,
socialing along
rapist,
this speech. What is your first reaction to it?
Convicted felon, con man.
Well, the biggest reaction is, why didn't she do the things that she's complaining about?
Complaining about. No one complains more than you, Traitor Trump. Why didn't she do it? Well, you know, Traitor Trump has an odd view. He's serving so-called, he never served government. Government served him. He serves himself. But saying, why didn't she do it? Well, because she's not a king or a queen. You know, you can't, that's how it works in a nation of laws. Everything he talks about, this traitor, he's a liar. He's like, oh, I could just do it and, you know, you could just, maybe if you get your Project 2025 through and you could be the dictator that Republicans want you to be, then you can call them up and they can, just like Kim Jong-un, your hero. You want your people to stand at attention like Kim Jong-un's people, right? But there's laws that have to be passed. We have policy. This is how it works. The president is not a king. He's the executive branch of government. There are two other branches.
All of these things that she talked about, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to do everything, but she didn't do any of it. She could have done it 3.5 years ago.
I talk about a lot of things too, but I can't do it because I'm not in government. You know, you have to have the majority. If the con man and his enablers are standing in the way of the border bill, for example, it's not going to happen. That's why Traitor Trump, you know, he should know that, because he called up his minions, his enablers, and said, don't pass this bill because I want to be able to fearmonger on it. Because we as Republicans have nothing else. What are we going to run on? 1 million dead? Are we going to run on the mass graves we left behind? What are we going to run on? The worst jobs record since Herbert Hoover? Even before the pandemic? With not even factoring in the pandemic. Traitor Trump and the Republicans have the worst jobs records since Herbert Hoover. The bloated deficits, the trillions we added to the so-called debt and deficit we pretend to care so much about. He's the worst. The ballooning income disparity that we helped, that we added to, thanks to our tax scam. Tell me where I'm wrong. If the conservatives, or whatever they call themselves now, are hanging around, Randy's still, you know, flittering around like a gnat. Tell me where I'm wrong. You know, facts are pesky things, as Ronald Reagan once said.
Leaving the auditorium and going to Washington, D.C. and closing the border. She doesn't need a bill. I didn't have a bill. I closed the border.
Of course, he's a liar. He never closed the border. But, you know, don't let facts interfere, Traitor Trump. She doesn't need a bill. She's not the queen. Trump did not, everything he's saying, let me just tell you, here's the facts. He did not close the border. Trump did not, he implemented border restrictions, but that was based on the COVID-19 pandemic. He never closed the border. All countries close their borders based on COVID-19 restrictions. So, that's it. He's just full of shit. Well, you know, I don't have to go through this. We know he's a liar. That he, which is so irritating, how We've talked about it before with the debate. The mainstream media focused on Biden being old, but not that Traitor Trump was a fire hose of lies. I'd rather have somebody old than a sociopath, but okay. That point is moot at the moment, thank God. But yeah, he's full of shit. He didn't do anything. According to government data, Trump did nothing. There were no, not just nothing, I should say. He did less than nothing. His government data does not show major improvements in border security metrics under Trump. In fact, the percentage of migrants who successfully entered the United States illegally increased under Traitor Trump from 35% to 38%. These are facts. So he's full of shit. And of course, when he goes on about how it's all this is why I hate him and everyone who votes for him, because he's going to go on about how other countries are emptying their jails, that crime is down everywhere else, and it's up here, and the other countries they have their prisons are empty because they're all coming in. That is just nothing but bullshit. It's shit on a shingle. He is a liar. He's a racist piece of shit, and he's a liar. And he's trying to make the American people afraid. And how dare he, He's trying to make America as small as he is. As small as his Trumpanzees. These cowardly, tedious, tiny, fragile little Trumpanzees who will kick down every time. He'll get the mob out to harass migrant families in a detention center or a migrant shelter, not a detention center. Scream at them. But they only scream in mobs, though. You understand? They wouldn't go there and scream alone. They need the mob to scream because they're cowards. They're the worst of us, They really are. They should be ashamed. Could you imagine getting your shoes on, putting on your jacket, whatever, getting dressed to go down to the migrant shelter and harass people, just scream through the windows in a mob? That's how you spend your evening. And I'm sure these people, they're all big holy rollers too. They'll go to church on Sunday, pray to the Jesus they pretend to worship. What a different world, or what a different everything it would be if they just leave these fucking people alone. You don't like what happened. You don't like the fact that we wrote laws that after World War II, so another Holocaust wouldn't happen. We wrote asylum laws that people could present themselves at the border, not just our border, everywhere. That, the NATO countries, you can present yourself and say, I'm seeking asylum. If you don't like that law, rewrite the law. Don't harass the migrant, the powerless. But that's all they got, And this traitorous scumbag who steals valor every time he fucking salutes. He has no business saluting. We talked about it on the show. They're all talking about stolen valor. About Walt stole valor. My ass. Bullshit. He did nothing except serve his country. I know how that's anathema to the traitor Trumpanzee crowd, but they say nothing about the civilian scumbag draft dodger standing there saluting North Korean generals and January 6th traitors. Scum.
and created the safest border we've ever had in the history of our country.
No.
She could have done all of these things, and she could still do them. She's got 4.5, 5 months left. She can go there.
You know, what's so... we can't play this whole thing. I know. It's the same shit. Different day. It's just nothing but a rambling of lies. But, you know, the fact that these assholes are sitting there and allowing it to go on, just allowing this con man to co-opt their air and spread these filthy racist lies into the empty heads of the Trumpanzee cult is so sickening, you know, because you can't fault a bird for flying or a fish for swimming or Trader Trump for being a filthy draft-dodging wannabe dictator con man. That's just his nature. But you can fault those who know better. You know? Like those two. Maybe they don't, though. You would think they would. I'm sure they're educated. But they sit there and allow this disgusting waste of human DNA to use their airwaves to poison the empty heads of their victims/viewers. And they know what they're enabling. They know what they're helping foment. They're not helping this country in any way move forward or together or become unified. They're just helping the next terrorist. They're giving him an excuse. They're fomenting hate. How much longer, how much longer are we going to take it? I got to wonder, how much longer is this shtick going to work? Oh, she could have done it. She should have done it. The border. That's all they got is the border. The border. She's the border czar, even though she's not. There is no such thing as a border czar. It's so tedious, but it's like we went through it on the show before. Kamala, excuse me. I took the lesson at the DNC from the little girls who told you how to say it properly. That's why I say VP Harris, because this is how it affects us. These filthy fascists, they mispronounce people's names on purpose. It gets very confusing. But that's what they do, because that's all they have. These little tedious little Kamala. Or they try to make people sound foreign. They're questioning her birth. I actually saw a tweet of from these traders that it was Harris saying this is Harris and her parents, right? And I'm trying to find it. And it was not her parents. It was just happened to be a picture of her and, an Indian woman and a dude, a white dude. Just, throughout her life, I'm sure she's taken many pictures with many people. And the maggots found a picture, some random photo saying, oh, here's Harris and her family and her mother and father. And the guy is white, of course. So they're saying, this is when did VP Harris turn black? You see? She's not black. But it wasn't her parents. You understand? They're just tweeting out a photo of some random couple. Everything, if they put the same amount of energy into not being horrible as they do lying and twisting things and fomenting fear and hate and division, there might be a hope for them, because we're leaving them behind, frankly. In fact, and I'm not talking about literally. You have to leave them in the dust. We're never going to convert them, but they'll and I'm not talking about leaving them behind without health care or living wages and retirement security and family leave and all the things that Democrats made possible and will make possible when we get the majority. We won't leave them behind there, but I'm talking about we will have to keep evolving without them, as usual. And trust me, they'll be the ones that'll eventually say, oh, well, as far as family leave, we're the champions of family leave. We were always for it. We're going to protect it. Trust me, that's how they roll. They stand athwart history, yelling, stop. We evolve anyway. And then they pretend that they were the champions of it all along. And it just never stops. All they have is racism.